Welcome to another episode of Mindful City, Tuning into Life, a podcast that brings you an intimate exploration of the businesses, practitioners, and artists making an impact in our community. Join us on Patreon for an exploration of all the people, places, and things that raise consciousness in our community by telling us about the businesses and happenings you'd like to know more about, and we'll explore them for you. Welcome to another episode of Mindful City, Tuning into Life. Today, I have as our guest Mike Nolan of Salt Suite in Seminole, Florida, our Tampa Bay area, St. Pete area Salt Suite. So you may never have heard of this before, but there is such a thing. And I did get to visit, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But I wanted to welcome Mike to the show. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you've just started the Salt Suite now. It's about 3 months, right,
Yes.
in the area. And what is actually a Salt Suite? Would you enlighten us a little bit what that is, what that means? Thank you.
Sure. I'll give you the background on it. So, salt therapy is a modern. It's also known as halotherapy, and it's a modern twist on a very old technology that people used for health. Essentially, back in I believe it was the 1700s, back in Poland, there were gentlemen who went into salt mines, and when the local doctor realized that they rarely got colds or got sick, this made him very curious. Like, why do the rest of the villagers get sick, get colds, and these guys who work in the mines don't? And then he realized there was a property in salt that was very helpful for that. So he explored that, realized that salt was part of the answer, and he basically brought the village people into the caves and had them breathing in salt as it was mined because it's in the air, and eventually moved that up to his doctor's office, started making a salt room out of that. Today, it's a little more modern. You get the salt in the air from what we call a halo generator, where we grind medical pharmaceutical grade salt up to particles that are 30 times smaller than a human hair, and that's sprayed into the air as you sit in a nice room. It's dark. There's salt on the floor, salt on the walls, and then we put the salt in the air. And this salt, you breathe it in, it gets on your skin. Salt is antibacterial, antimicrobial, so it helps kill off any bacteria or infections. It's anti-inflammatory as well. So if you have inflammation in your lungs and your sinuses because you have COPD or asthma, other chronic breathing conditions, it helps open up those airways and helps you breathe better. So there's a number of things that salt helps with, but that's basically what an experience is like at the Salt Suite.
How did you get introduced to salt therapies, and so much so that you were inspired to create a space for your own there?
Sure. So I was living in the New Jersey area, South Jersey, outside of Philadelphia, a little over 2 years ago, and I had gone to a new Salt Suite location that had just opened up, and I was intrigued by it, tried it out, and really liked it. Went a couple times. Knew I was moving to Florida, so I looked in my area around this Tampa area that I knew I was moving to, and realized that there wasn't a Salt Suite in this area. So I checked out in a little bit more. The Salt Suite is a franchise. They're based out of Miami, originally located there. And after I'd moved and gotten settled, I met with the owners of the franchise and started discussions with them. And then it was off on this journey to build the Salt Suite here in this area for our community. And I'm very happy I did. The people who come in see great results, and it's one of the reasons that I personally really wanted to do this, not only as a business opportunity, but it's something that can help people feel better and live a better life.
So I got to visit right before you had the grand opening. I came probably the day before. I remember, yeah, I came the day before the grand opening, and there's something about just thinking only of the benefits that you mentioned in a sense of the respiratory system and that cleansing portion. It was really kind of like a super relaxing experience for me in a beautiful space. And I even have the salt lamp in my home, so it does that light, that soothing feeling. And then you kind of have this setup with music and things like that. So tell me a little bit, how did that come together, and what have people's experiences been with the setup? Because that adds to the experience for me as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, there's I had only mentioned some of the health benefits, but one of the other benefits is, like you had mentioned, it's a very nice environment. It's very inviting, very comfortable, well lit for relaxation. And when you breathe better in general, you're going to relax. And that environment, as you had noted, is just, it invites you to sit back and relax. You sit in a nice leather chair with an ottoman, as you know. You can lean back. We give you a headset with an iPod, and you can listen to, spa music if that's what you're into. And I'm not sure if you did this or not, but our recommendation is to do the breathing exercises. My personal favorite, I do them myself when I do my own salt therapy sessions, and I think it gives you the biggest benefit of the salt therapy, because it's walking you through deep breathing exercise. You're getting the salt really deep into your lungs and into your nasal passage and sinus cavity, and really helping open up your airways and helping you breathe. And myself, as well as many other people, it's not unusual for folks to fall asleep during a salt therapy session, because you are, as you noted, so relaxed, and you're breathing well. You just melt into the chair and kind of forget the world for 45 minutes, if nothing else. Even if you put the health benefits aside, you're relaxing and turning the world off for 45 minutes.
Yeah, so it was amazing. I immediately fell asleep. So that's for sure. That happened instantly. What I thought was so interesting, and if you could talk a little more about that halo technology, because that was interesting to me, because I did wake up at some point. I had that meditation music on, and there was kind of like that dong that that happens in meditation music, and that happened at this right time, and I ended up waking up, and I could see the room. You mentioned because on the soundtrack it would tell you a little bit about the process and how it was going to go while you were listening, and it mentioned to look around with the light, and you could see these like tiny, tiny, tiny particles, and I could really see it on my skin, and on it, because you have like a blanket on. And I thought that was super amazing. So how does that work? Like, how does that halo technology work, and how does that go into our airways?
So effectively, when you look at the salt before we run it through the halo generator, it's called, or salt generator, also. Before it goes through that, it almost looks like table salt, like you would use, to for spices or
Mhm.
whatnot to flavor your food. Um, and what happens is there's a grinder inside of that that really mashes that salt down. And it's not, table salt. It's, like I said, it's pharmaceutical grade salt. But it mashes that salt up and grinds it up into really fine particles. And then there's a channel system of an airway that will blow that into the air and spread it around. The rooms are set up such that we make sure the airflow is correct, to make sure that we move the air across the room from where the halo generator is, to make sure it passes by everybody in the room, and that everybody gets some salt, to breathe in. And like you said, I have a little bit of a tan on my skin, so when I come out of a salt session, I can almost dust it off. It's almost like I have a layer of dust on my skin. And that's good. That's a good thing, because the salt's getting on your skin. You can tell it's working, that there was a lot of salt in the air. And as you had noted, if you look in there, you can see a light behind it, like one of our salt night lights in the background.
Mhm.
You can actually kind of see the little particles of salt floating around in the air, and that's what you're breathing in. And it's because it is so small and very dry too. I don't think I mentioned that earlier.
Mhm.
One of the keys is, sometimes people say, well, can I just go to the ocean and you can go to the ocean and get salt air, and I'm certainly not putting that down. It's very good, but one of the extra benefits of salt therapy in the Halo Room is we have to keep the salt very, very dry. And the benefit of that is that the if it's wet, it doesn't get as deep into your lungs and your
Mm.
sinus cavities. It'll get caught, by just your normal system that's trying to keep out foreign objects. When it's dry, it's getting really deep into your lungs, deep in your sinus cavities. It even gets into the top layer, two layers of your skin, which is how it helps with skin conditions like eczema um, and other psoriasis and other skin conditions.
Mm. So, it's been 3 months now, and what have been some of the experiences that people have shared with you, especially if they're doing this for the first time? What's kind of their experience, their moment when they go through something like this?
So it has been very interesting. We get really, in my opinion, incredible feedback. There's not been one person who has told me, "Hey, that was terrible. I hate it, and I never want to do this again." Um, they Folks come out if they don't have a chronic condition and just say, "Hey, that was beautiful. I fell asleep," and then when they come back they say to me, "You know what? After that first night, I slept like I haven't slept in years." It just relaxes you so. And I think we're all just in modern world, technology, everything's dinging,
Mm.
phones going off with
Yeah.
around us and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And just people constantly poking at us. I think relaxation is kind of underrated. We don't realize how busy we are and we're always on the go. And when you're in a salt room and you're doing it for whatever your reason, whether it's chronic or not, and you're going through the breathing exercises, you have your eyes closed, you're breathing well and the salt's opening up your airways, and you get in this relaxed state. When you come out of it, you will feel different. You will definitely feel different. So and that's the feedback from people who do not have chronic conditions. For folks who do, some of the uh, better conversations I've had with folks over the 3 months better being almost nearly incredible. We do have one member who she had told me after 2 weeks she was on a whole slew of medicines for a chronic breathing condition. It was undiagnosed at the time when in that first 2 weeks when we had opened, and she said, "I've already gotten off of two of my medications in
Mm.
2 weeks."
Wow.
And I happened to bump into her about a month and a half later, and she told me I'm now off of three. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, and at that point it had been diagnosed. And what was interesting about that was she asked her doctor, um, "Well, what's the treatment?" And he said to her, "It's interesting because you stumbled across the treatment I was going to give you in a different format. Basically, I was going to have you breathe in salt to open up your airways." And he said,
Mm.
"You're doing it now, and if that's working for you, keep doing that." Because
Mm.
that, and she comes about 5 days a week and can't miss it. That's one great example. We've had folks go on vacation, members go on vacation, and they come back a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and they're like, "I had to get in here. I can't breathe. My allergies are killing me." And they feel the difference from when they do salt therapy on a regular basis to when they don't for whatever something comes up but they just can't make it in. They notice a difference
I
for
was
sure.
wondering that when you were saying about irregularity in terms of a schedule. So how often do you recommend that someone does salt therapy, and is this more like a process also? So it's not just like a one time you come in and you expect to see everything change. Like what have you seen in time wise, and what's your recommendation?
So everybody's situation is different. As the recommendation, the general guidelines, but it's not unusual if you have a really bad chronic condition, you might come in and see an amazing difference immediately. Again, depending on each person. Some folks see a little bit of improvement. So we generally see folks after about 2 or 3 weeks, you can really start to see something. Most folks will say, "Hey, you know what? I'm sleeping better. I'm breathing better. I'm not using my rescue inhaler as often." It's about 2 to 3 weeks. And that we suggest folks come in about 3 to 4 times a week if you're a chronic. if you have a chronic condition. And same with skin too. People see improvements in their skin conditions usually within the first week or two, but it continues to improve. Mm-hmm. So about 2 months into the regular use, about 3 or 4 times a week, more if you're in worse condition, then you can probably back it off a little bit and start coming maybe twice a week, so that you're kind of in a maintenance mode. Once you've got kind of your condition under control, you can kind of transition into a maintenance mode. And then, if you start to flare up, condition starts flaring up again, then you can, raise it up and kind of, play with your, the number of times that you come in for a session to find what's right for you. But that generally, that's what we see.
So you're probably doing memberships or things like that to allow for that multiple visits, or what do you have put in place for that?
Yeah. So we do everything from pay-as-you-go a la carte. If you want to just come in and pay because you're going to not come that often, you don't have a condition, you just want to relax. That's definitely, the most cost effective for somebody who's not going to come on a regular basis. We also have a membership that allows you to come 4 times a month. And that's, again, probably a maintenance mode, kind of maintaining on a chronic condition that's under control, or, you're just looking to relax, you enjoy the experience. And that's what we call our Immune Boost membership. And then our next membership, we kind of jump from middle of the road right to the full Monty. So we have what we call an unlimited package. So you can come up to 2 sessions a day. We're open 7 days a week, except for major holidays. And we have a pretty wide open hours. And you could come every day for 2 sessions, every day of the month.
So no overnights yet, though, right? I can't just sleep overnight.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. In fact, we just, since it's funny because we're talking about hours, one of the things we noticed, we had a kind of a fluctuating schedule throughout the week where we did our last session at 6, so we closed at 7 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and we did a late night, Tuesday, Thursday, we did our last session at 7. And those last sessions at 7, for folks who work, if you get out of work at 5 and got to grab a bite to eat and then try to pop over and get some salt therapy, folks were finding that challenging, depending on if they're coming from a Tampa area, or right. I think we all know the traffic can be pretty rough around rush hour. So we actually ended up adjusting our hours so that our last session is 7 o'clock, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Oh, that's incredible.
And we opened a little bit earlier on Sunday to give folks a chance to sneak in on a Sunday if they'd like. And our customers have really liked that. They can, members and non-members, they are coming more often because it's a little more convenient for them. So
that's wonderful, because I'm thinking to myself, you get to sleep so good. You're like, can I just sleep here overnight? Can I just stay here? I'll open up for you. I'll let some customers in for you in the morning. I'll take care of that shit.
There you go.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for diving into this topic with us. It's interesting because it's something that I had seen here and there over the years. And I was like, oh, this seems really interesting. And always when I was used to see the pictures, it's such beautiful lighting and it was always very inviting. And so I never got to do that. So I was just so happy to finally get to experience that with you. And I was so intrigued. I said, we have to talk about this a little bit, because anything that's really allows us to look at our well-being and healing ourselves and being open to various modalities that might work for us, because we're all so different, and things that work a little more gently, over time. And so having that option is incredible for people. And so thank you for seeing that benefit, being inspired by that, and then bringing it, to this ate. And so I hope to come again soon. You might be surprised if I stayed overnight. Lock the door.
I open the door and I see you in one of the suites early in the morning.
Well, I'd be completely white by that time with all the stuff. You might be scared. But yes, thanks again. And I hope to bring you again on the show soon and see how things are going and what people are sharing about salt therapy and how things are progressing for you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing you again.
Thanks again, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
To find out more about salt therapy, contact Mike at the Salt Suite Seminole or visit them on Instagram, the Salt Suite Seminole.